Hello, it's time to talk about the fail tasers again. My good old-fashioned pork gland fail tasers. Okay, so, as we all know, last night the fail tasers failed to tase, as usual, the Spurs in Game 5 and lost in a gentleman's sweep. Which, if you recall from this video, and probably Twitter, which, like, nobody ever follows me on, as they definitely shouldn't. But anyway, it's my true shit posting platform of choice. Anyway, I had mentioned that I sincerely believe, in fact, before, this one was actually after Game 1, that I sincerely believed that this team needed to, uh, this team was going to only do, odds were, win one game in the series and be competitive throughout the rest of it. And I said that at best we could get 2 wins. Now, you might think that we weren't competitive throughout the series. You'd be wrong. And in fact, you're very wrong. Because as even in Game 5 last night, they featured like 2 or 3 times really prominently in the game at different points. The Blazers actually held the lead, and it was a double-digit lead. It was pretty noticeable, actually, at their peak lead. So, you know, the highest amount of points that they had in the lead. Go figure. I don't know why I feel the need to explain that, other than I'm a fucking idiot. But anyway, you know, for half of us, the half of us that have a roadkill for a brain, I guess, as who I'm explaining that for. The I can already tell this is gonna be a wreck of a day mentally. Um, how fun. Perfect for a therapy day too. But anyway, uh point being, I'm actually or point being is that yeah, so we had a 15-point lead in game 3. Of course we ended up losing by I think 12 in that game. So but we actually maintained that lead. If you paid attention and watched these games, we actually maintained a lead and we were hyper competitive through 3 quarters. We didn't implode until the fourth, in traditional Blazers fashion, actually. And then in game 4, obviously at home as well, we held I believe it was a 21-point lead at one point in that game. And then we just fucking buckled halfway through the third. And after that, we lost by, I think it was like 19 or something like that. It was brutal. But again, exactly as I actually predicted in Discord for that game, which is that we would, you know, basically be competitive and actually have a lead for the first like half of that game. And then by the fourth quarter, we'd just be hemorrhaging and we just hand it to them, which is exactly what we did. But the point is that both of those games we held the lead the majority of the time, which means that we had the chance to go 3-1 on their heads. And in game 1 it was competitive through and throughout. We didn't lose by very much at all. So that was actually a great sign as well. And then in this game, game 5, back in San Antonio, we actually did a fantastic job of being competitive throughout. We were pretty much down the entire game, admittedly, but we maintained most of the game to averaging around roughly 11 points down, 10, 11 points down. That's it. Like, we genuinely, like, I would say the average is probably read mathematically, like, exactly around 10.5 points is what we average. We maintain that pretty much throughout the entire length of the game. That's genuinely competitive, especially with as good of a team as they are and as great a chemistry as they have and as fluid as they play. And as bad as 3-point shooting as this team is famous for, we actually stayed competitive throughout it. And it's actually really fucking cool that that's the case. So that needs to be noted at the start, is that this genuinely was actually kind of in our favor this entire series for the Blazers. It's honestly incredible. But for the very first time in my life, I decided to take some notes. Basically, starting at the very end of the second quarter. um, so that's always fun. Um, but yeah, so my notes as follows. So despite how horrible the Blazers have played overall in this game 5, and this was again with just a few minutes left in the second quarter, Sidy Cissoko is again proving my point with having an instant impact each time he's on the floor, as he did when he got put in with 3 to 4 minutes left in game 4, which is very true. And in fact, we were down by, I think, around 20 I think we were down by 20 or 21 points when CD was brought in initially at the end of game 4. And within, I think it was a minute and a half to 2 minutes of, live time, so game time, he literally single-handedly, with his impact and the way he plays, helped us get to within 10. We ended up losing, I think, by like 20, but still, he helped us get within 10. That's with the rest of the guys that are usually kind of starters out there. That was CD's direct, immediate impact in that game 4. And then in this game, 454 or 354. I didn't quite catch it when I looked. It was either 354 or 454 left in the second quarter. CD has another impactful moment that gets credit from Slow Loris Burp. And I will not call her anything but that. Anyway, Slow Loris Burp gave him credit for his instant impact. And that's huge because, Slow Loris Burp and the rest of ESPN's crew is always famous for just dick sucking their favorite players. So in this case, normally that would be Wemby in this case. Or if it's the Lakers or, that's just by default, it's LeBron as a dick sucking, especially Doris Burke. So Slow Loris Burp giving Sidy Cissoko credit was awesome. What's interesting is, and this is not necessarily a game thing, it was a broadcasting note that I didn't put down, but it's just something that sticks with me because I find it to be very odd, is that throughout the game, they kept mentioning over and over again that Tiago Splitter was, of course, a part of the Spurs. And it was under Greg Popovich initially when he started his coaching tenure as a assistant. But anytime that Sidy Cissoko was on the floor, and he played actually quite a bit this last game in the series, they mentioned nothing about the fact that just last season he was with the Spurs. And he had been with the Spurs for at least a couple of years, if not 3 seasons. Nothing. Not a word. Not a peep. Blake Wesley comes on the floor. Same thing. Nothing. They mention him. They talk about, I think they mentioned something about like his play style in his age, but they didn't mention that he was on the Spurs for a couple of seasons, starting, season before last. So it's very interesting to me that they didn't do that, because normally that's a default thing. Even if they were two-way guys, or they were second-round picks or something that didn't necessarily crack the rotations that much, normally they would actually mention that. And in fact, especially as fresh as it was, because they were just joined the Blazers after officially being given up on by the Spurs. So it's very interesting that they didn't mention that. I don't know why, because normally that's always a default. And I mean, they do that. They've done that throughout history, really, with even guys who rarely got that much of a chance, or were even undrafted guys who were just starting to get a chance with a team. Like Jeremy Lin, they did that with consistently. So they said, oh, he started with the Warriors. Yes, he did. So why in the hell aren't we doing that here? Is what I don't understand. Like, it would even be a great storyline, actually, for advertising purposes. So I just found it a bit puzzling and bizarre, especially considering I also find it to be an important fact. Because this is why these two, but especially CD, as I mentioned again in this last video, that he should be being played because they're fresh out of the Spurs. And even with Wemby. So they not only have the chemistry and the rapport with this team, and thus Mitch Johnson actually as a coach, they actually know the play. They know the playbook. They know the game and the play style that they're going to play. They know their plays, right? On both ends of the floor, but especially offensively. By default. So they are going to better know how to place themselves on the floor and how to play, because they're going to have the immediate play recognition that nobody else on our team is going to have. At least not as good as them, because again, they were just there. And both CD and also Blake actually got some decent minutes. They actually got some decent runs with the Spurs these last 2 seasons. Should say the first 2 seasons, therefore, in the league. I swear Sidy's in his 4th year, but I think they said he was in his 3rd year, which just puzzles me because I swear he's been with us and makes it his 4th year. But either way, it's that's why it's important to mention that. So it was bizarre to me, and that's why it's notable to mention how bizarre it is to me that they didn't mention anything about that. But you can immediately see what I meant when I spent like 10 minutes or however long it was in that video. It's chaptered out, so you can tell. I think it was 10 to 15 minutes straight. I spent just going back and forth upon complimenting and talking about the playstyles in the game of CD and of Blake. And then also the other half of it was, again, explaining, therefore, with that and other things, factors, why I felt like it made perfect sense if they'd be included in the rotation for this entire series by Thiago, and not just for shit minutes, garbage minutes, trash minutes, because they're going to lose a game or something, because we obviously weren't going to win the series, right? There was no way to take it truly very seriously. This is a perfect learning experience for the coaching staff. It's a person, especially for him as the head coach, because he doesn't have that much experience. It's a perfect learning opportunity for the younger guys in this team too. And then on top of that, these two specifically would have a double chip on their shoulder, because again, they were just fresh off the Spurs, and they were just given up on, and they clearly have a role. And in fact, especially considering Blake Wesley, before he busted his foot, because he's a pure chaos engine, is how he plays on both ends. He's just pure chaos. Like, the dude he's painfully entertaining to watch. You kind of have to be a masochist to be like, God, this dude's fun to watch, because he is. And he can be valuable because of it, but he also can, well, just about kill himself as well he plays. But, and obviously a few other reasons on the list of why I explained that would have made sense. But I specifically said that CD needed to get the most minutes, right? I said I think it was between 8 and 12 minutes a game I felt like CD deserved, because not only would it help him prove himself, it would give him more confidence, it would show that we trust him, but also, as we did throughout the regular season, in fact, but it would also give him more motivation to get out there and basically kick the teeth into the Spurs and being like, you fucked up, you know what I mean? And I think it would just be amazing. Plus, again, nobody's expecting it, any teams, even these teams like us, to actually do that and start playing guys that normally wouldn't, instead of, shrinking the rotations, expanding the rotation by a couple of players. No team's expecting that when you enter the playoffs, right? So these are like a bunch of reasons why I mentioned that. And so it made total sense. And it all but guaranteed, besides CD just automatically guaranteeing it was going to be an instant impact from him, as he always does in every game he plays for us, it was also that on top of it that really would impact it. And he immediately proved that last night. And then Donovan got blocked on a dunk by fucking Devin Vassell. 6'4", like 190-pound Devin Vassell. He might be 200. The dude is a twig, I swear. It's crazy that fucking happened. It was a two-hand smash attempt too, and he got fucking shafted by the twig of Devin, the ghostly exoskeleton of Devin Vassell. Brutal. So my halftime thoughts were the fact that we're only down by 19 right now is disgusting, given the fact that the Spurs shot 66.7% while we shot 36.5% for the half. How the living hell that's remotely possible is well beyond me, is a perfect way to put it. Because what? How are you only down 19 when you got outscored or outshot by over 30%? Is so far beyond me. Like, how do you outshoot a team? Oh, this is just overall field goal percentage. 30%. 30% better. And you still are only up by 19. Is just mind-boggling. It just does not make a lick of sense. But another thing I had to note about the series, and this is a really big piece for me that really frustrates me, and this is just therefore in general for me in the league, because it's kind of almost offensive to me. It's like offensive to any sensibilities, common sense, or rationale, is that there has been so many fucking screens set by San Antonio in this series where the player using that screen hooks and or basically bodies up and thus pushes our defensive players directly into the screen in order to draw the fouls against us, and they succeeded 100% of the time. And the majority of those were on Toumani. And I can't figure that out. You can make a whole compilation throughout the series of just that happening and us getting called for the foul every fucking time because we bulldozed through the screen. The only reason why that happened is because they were allowing the San Antonio players that were using that screen to literally body the fuck up and push their bodies into our defenders and basically tangle them up to force them into their own screeners so that way they could get a foul. And they got it every single time, 100% of the time. Literally watch back all the games, find every single instance this happened where a foul is called because it's every fucking time. And the main player who kept doing that, using the screens, was De'Aaron Fox, fucking bodying up. He was basically doing this, and or he was entangling and doing that, or he was just hooking somebody and then pushing with his shoulder and his side, leaning a little bit, so he could force them in through his screener, so that way he could get a foul. And they caught it every fucking time. They called it, which is inexcusable. Because here's the thing: what in the flying fuck are you supposed to do as a defender at that point? Because your only option that officiating gives you is you have to just immediately give up and just die. Stop playing defense for the rest of the possession, because what the fuck's the point? If you're going to be called for a foul because you're pushing and bulldozing through the screen every single time, even though you're not technically doing that, you're being forced to do that by the offensive player giving you an offensive fucking foul, you literally have no choice but to either constantly get into foul trouble because they're going to constantly do it because they're getting it every single time, or you just have to give up and stop playing defense altogether, because apparently you're not supposed to defend once that happens, because apparently the offensive players are allowed to just shove you as much as they want and hook you as much as they want and body you up as much as they want to force you into their screen. So they're literally trying to basically run themselves into the screen because they know that they have you on the screener side of their body. So they just drag you along. That's an automatic offensive foul every single day, and instead they kept calling it as a defensive foul because they kept forcing us to go through their screeners. It's inexcusable, and it was extremely fucking irritating. And at this point, pretty much immediately, actually, I think it was within the first 3 minutes of the third quarter, De'Aaron Fox did it again to Toumani. And it's just like, what? Seriously, what the fuck are we supposed to do? What is a defensive guy supposed to do? What is a team supposed to do as defensive players one-on-one like that? If apparently the offensive player is no longer going to be called for offensive foul when they're doing that shit. That's illegitimate play. That's not, they're bending the rules. That's straight up fucking illegitimate. There's no legitimacy to that, no defense for that move. They're not bending the rules. They're just making a mockery of them, basically. In other words, like, this is, because it's not, technically it is against the rules, because it would be an offensive foul by default. So it's just something I had to note, because it was really fucking irritating, and it happened again, and it's just visceral for me, because I'm like, especially as a defensive-minded and offensive style player, I'm like, what the fuck are you supposed to do? Like, you're literally telling us, stop playing defense. Just stop. Stop trying, because you're not going to be allowed, because we'll keep calling fouls on you until you stop. You have to die when you see a screen, because otherwise, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. We refuse to call offense. It just pisses me off so much. But anyway, at the 4:50 mark of the third quarter, I noted that our defense was clearly working for us, as the Spurs have only managed 11 points at the time before this pair of free throws by De'Aaron Fox. So, of course, he hit both. That's 55-77. So, yeah. And we had scored 14, I believe, at that point, because of a Rob Williams reverse slam. So that was nice. So we actually outscored them technically at that point. But, I mean, that's pretty much just about your entire fucking quarter, and everyone was deadlocked. Like, that shows that our defense really stepped the fuck up. And then CD to start the fourth quarter. Oh, baby. I already knew what that meant. And then guess what? 9 minutes left, 76-91, a solid run. And guess who has been in this entire time? Sidy. 79-91 with 8:46 left. CD3, 82-91. This is why I said you got to play Sidy before the series even started. And then I said it after game 1 in that video. This is why you got to play Sidy. I literally said this is what he does. It's an instant impact on both ends, but especially defensively. What did I say? What did I say? Bro is proven correct. As usual. Thank you. It's not arrogance, it's compassion and understanding. Anyway, yes, which is fantastic. And then I had the general note for the series, which I already had mentioned, which is that the Blazers led most of game 3 and 4, despite dropping them badly. And I also put a fun fact on here. I said, San Antonio's used all of their timeouts in the second half outside of one. And by that point, it was, I think, like 7 minutes or 6 minutes left in the fourth quarter. So, like, literally, it was a quarter and a half, or just under a quarter and a half time. And San Antonio burned every single timeout except for one. So 7 or 6 of their 7. Which is just, that just shows you how, honestly, kind of pissed and scared they were. Because it's like, how the fuck is this team doing this to us? Beautiful, beautiful. Stephon Castle fouls out at 4:36 left in the game by bear hugging Toumani, 89-102, and he hit both, so it's 91-102. Oh, and also I wanted to note this too because I just thought it was interesting. It's an interesting little detail. I don't know how many people noticed this. Wemby slowed down his free throw routine quite a bit in this game 5 because of the fact that the first 4 games, if you pay attention every time he got to the line, he immediately went to his, part, and then he just shoots it. Whereas in this game 5, he had an entire preamble before he got into that, which I know is his normal full routine. So he was rushing himself at the line, apparently, for the first 4, and it reminded me that he had this full routine, but he got rid of that beginning part. So him taking the extra time in the beginning was just an interesting detail I wanted to note for the game 5 because it's so different than the rest of the series where he just cut that piece out of his routine. He brought it back, and so he slowed it down. And to be honest, it helped him, it seems like, to me, quite a bit. He was still a good free throw shooter, but he had missed a few. And then in this game, I don't think he missed a single free throw because he was actually like taking his time this time. He was actually going back to his proper routine. And then he airballed a 3 over Drew with 2:30 left in the game. What the height do? What the height do, Wemby? What the height and reach do? Nothing. But yeah, and then the difference when Sidy came back out of the game was immediately obvious because we immediately went way back down again. We just pretty much left all of our energy on the bench. So yeah, and then the final note I had was the challenge on the block was extremely weird. With like, I think it was still like 2 minutes left in the game by Thiago because that was the most obvious clean ass nasty block on Toumani ever. And I have zero reason why he challenged that. The only thing I can think of, honestly, is that it was a fuck it challenge because they're like, whoa, now we're guaranteed to fucking lose. We're already cooked. We're done. Fuck it. Let's fucking burn the last challenge we have just in case it goes in our favor. Not that it would help us in any way. But I think that's what it was. It was what I call a fuck it challenge because there's no use in not using it, I guess, at this point. So screw it, let's do it. It usually happens when it's the winning team and you're like winning by 20 plus that the fuck it challenges get issued. But in this case, it was the reverse. So, but I noted that was more reason for Thiago to send out the bench mob instead of keeping the scorers in. And the reason why I specifically said instead of keeping the scorers in is because he kept the scorers in. Or sorry, the scorers, starters. And he did. He kept him in for until I think like right at a minute or like just under a minute left, and then he put the bench mob out. I think it was like 49, 50. I think it was like 49 or 57 seconds left, and he put them in. And I don't know why, because by that point we were down by around 20, so it's like there's no point. I mean, you obviously already lost this game because by again like 2 minutes left, you're well down. So what exactly was the point of keeping your starters in? I don't entirely know. It was kind of a bit bizarre. Like I think you think at that point, once you realize you're done, you just wave the white flag and you put your fucking bench guys in, your young guys, and just give them some run. But yeah. So those are my notes for the series. Um, yeah, like I honestly, Wob always has his fucking fan therapy sessions for every time a team loses a series. And I'm just like, no, you know what? No, I'm actually honestly just really happy. And I'm just thankful that I believed in this roster when nobody else did. Because, and I mean everybody didn't believe in them, to where the maximum amount of wins that anybody guessed for and thought would this team could win was 38 this season. And and that was one single person. Everyone else believed it was going to be between 28 and 36 wins this season. We won 41. I literally, only out of spite in certain comment sections for season predictions and everything, not just from Blazers fan media, but also from um uh NBA, just general NBA predictions. Out of spite, it pissed me off so much. This like shit talk, basically, or like roasting, or like this team has no ability to improve this year. It literally, towards a lot of Blazers fan media were even saying is that, hey, this team is gonna regress. They're gonna lose 2 more games than they did last season. Just an insult. And so I'm just sitting here like out of spite. I'm like, fuck it. If let's say your guys' shit talking and doubt is actually like, there's something to it. At bare minimum, this team is going to win 41 games this year. They're going to go 500. And, like I said, but I'm 100% confident. I pinned up my Discord. It's still there on September 3rd. So, basically right before training camp begins, I did it on Twitter. I did it, I think, on a video, or maybe it was just a post on what used to be the community tab. Now it's literally posts on the channel, that I had stated that this team is going, and I said mark it, because this team is absolutely going to win 44 to 46 wins this season. I guarantee it, So come back to these posts when, the season ends. And I got 42. There's 42 out of 42 and 40 is what we win. So how can I not be, proud and thankful of, proud of this team, and grateful to them that they actually, proved my point that I made before the even training camp started last season. It makes me feel very validated. It makes me feel very happy. And it also makes me, again, have my asshole side of me come out and be like, fuck all you haters. Fuck all you. Fuck you all. You fucking idiots. Fuck all you. I was right. You were wrong. Fuck you. 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 Because, yeah, that's right. You don't question me. I'm almost always right when it comes to this shit. How? I don't know. I really, like, I'm not a betting person, but I swear to God, I need to become a betting person, because I would have at least made $10,000 off of just basic bets, which would have been obviously betting the over on the Blazers before the season started. I would have at least probably made a cool 10,000 or $10,000 just off of that. And then obviously, guaranteeing that the Blaze, like, guessing if there was a line for that, saying that the series would go 4-1 and the Blazers would get a game. And also then in that game, betting the over that the Blazers would come back and win it in game 2, which they did. And so I would have at least made 10K. Probably I could have made upwards of 20K, even with minimal put down on each of those things, exactly because of the fact that nobody believed in this team. Even during the series, nobody believed in it. So it's, you're gonna make a lot of money. And somebody did make, there's a bunch of people around here that are Blazers fans that made like between 1,000 and like $2,500 straight up off of just simply betting on game 2, the over on the Blazers coming back and winning, which they did. Like, I'm just saying, I could be in such a good financial position right now, and if I had done that, actually, I wouldn't even have the stressor of having to know I have to sell my car. I could fucking keep my car, and not only could I fucking replace the spring and replace the shock that are now dented because of the wheel being bent inward, and then fix the fucking axle, I'd actually have my 240 still. I'd still be able to drive it for years to come, and probably get that dent taken out from the accident, and you know, maybe have enough left to actually do a complete rewiring of the car. Basically a new electrical system in it, because it desperately needs it. It's trying to do its best Chrysler impression in that way of its just all of its electrical issues, even before the accident. None of them came after, actually. It's all been before. Um, like, literally, the position I'd be in would be beautiful. And in fact, we could actually afford to move out of this damn slum that just keeps deteriorating more and more over time, but that's a different story. The point being, though, is that ultimately, despite it, I'm still very proud of this team, and I'm very proud of the results. I love that we were, like I mentioned in the beginning of this video, we were very competitive throughout the entire series. We genuinely could have gone 3-1. Instead of the Spurs being 3-1, we could have been 3-1. We were genuinely that close. It's actually, it says everything about this team, because it was blatantly not a fluke. Like, this just shows how underestimated and how just shat on this team is, to where even their own opponents disrespect them and underestimate them, to where we're actually able to be hyper competitive, to where we genuinely had a real chance. And it was not at all a stretch to say this. It's not at all an exaggeration. You can look throughout the course of each of the games, we genuinely had a chance for the first 4 games to go 3-1, which is better than even I expected. Like, I knew that we had a certain set of underdog mentality loving people on this roster, but I didn't think it was that much. So how much of that is actually how underestimated this team is versus, well, the two different sides of underestimation, right? Or just being ignored and like thought, nah, you don't have it in you, whichever side it is, whether it's more the Spurs side about how heavily they underestimated us and didn't believe in us, to our side of it of like how much of it we actually are that good, we're that able to compete. That's not probably able to be said, but like either way, that's very prevalent, and it's very important to note. So again, I'm just really fucking happy with this damn team, man. It's so cool to see it, and thank God we have Tom Dundon to make sure that the quality of everything is going to cheapen out next season by about at least 50%. Because he's a billionaire and he's poor, and we need to pay for everything too when it comes down to the renovations. So because he's very poor and destitute. So please give the billionaire more of your money. Anyway, yeah. So that, and then obviously the team is going to be forced to ride in last second ticket purchases of Greyhound buses to travel across the country, and any tardiness is going to be entirely to be paid for by the players and the staff. And also, yeah, I'm really looking forward to this coaching staff search, because even the worst coaches in existence are gonna bulk and say fuck you. They're not even, in fact, they're not even gonna fucking pay attention. They're not even going to consider. They're going to fucking laugh if they get an offer or get talked to by the Blazers. Guaranteed. Like, obviously, in person, they're not going to laugh, because that would be unprofessional and unbecoming. However, they're going to laugh. They're going to be cackling their asses off afterward when they say no and they get away, because they're going to be like, this is fucking ridiculous, dude. Like, you really thought you had a fucking chance with me to hire us, as a coach for your team when you're not even going to pay us what the average wage, average pay, average salary of a fucking NCAA coach is. Like, genuinely, like the average NCAA coach makes, I think it's like $2.5 or $2.75 million a year on their contracts. And Tom Dundon's like, we're not willing to, I think it was pay more than 1.6 a year. What? So, in other words, what, are you going to hire a corpse? Are you going to hire one of the meth heads off of fucking Burnside and Broadway outside Helen Swindell? Like, what are you going to fucking do? Seriously. Are you going to go to a homeless camp and find the most seemingly stable person and be like, hey, you're hired. Come coach the Blazers. Like, seriously, what are you going to do? Are you going to go to a high school? I suppose they could try to go to a high school and be like, hey, we're going to recruit at high schools because apparently that's all we can potentially afford to pay because I'm not willing to budge on this, as Tom Dundon, right? And so he's like, okay, fine. Let's go to fucking high school coaches and see if we can lowball them and give them like a contract for $800,000 a year, see, for 2 years or something, and see what they can do. Like, that could potentially happen. I suppose it's highly unlikely, but the chances are not ever zero. That's for sure. And it feels like the chances might be like around a 10% chance they might be forced to do that. And then they might paint it as a picture, brand it, and market it as like, well, you never know when you find a diamond in the rough, And to give them this opportunity, you might just find out that they're actually really quick learners and they're really good at this and they become a really good coach. And then they go to a different team because we still won't pay them enough. Like, I swear to God, dude. But that's a different topic for a different video for a different day if I decide to do that, because yeah, I do have some thoughts on it. Although I feel like in the pin comment, I did actually sum that up in a real short summary really well. All my ultimate foundational thoughts on that, because I'm trying not to pay too much attention to it or think too much on it, because otherwise I'm going to be so frustrated. I don't want that. So yeah, anyway, that is the overview of my thoughts on this postseason, this playoff series between the Spurs and the Blazers. As a Blazers fan, yeah, I don't know what to expect from this team going forward, though. Not gonna lie, I have no idea what to expect next season at this point. Especially considering now the Bulls hold our first round pick. And I'm pretty sure we also don't have second round picks for a couple of seasons. So I think we're literally our pickless this year in the drafts. And this year, next year, I think well, at least this year, I know we're completely pickless. I think next year we might have a first rounder, but we definitely have we definitely don't have a second rounder as far as I recall. I could be wrong, but I swear I remember there's a couple of seasons straight that we don't have any second rounders either. And I'm pretty sure that's this season and next season for the draft. So yeah, and then if he's cheaping out that much, I mean, again, ultimately, who the fuck is going to want to even sign with this team? If you're looking at free agents, probably not really anybody. Other than maybe the guys that are already on this team, like Rob. I would love to be able to see Rob. I've been just kind of sitting on it for the whole season just to see how it goes. And I think, especially in this playoff series, it proves that Rob needs to stick with this team. Like, I think that, and I know he's going to be willing to take a much smaller contract than I think a lot of people are expecting him to. So I would adore to be able to re-sign Rob and keep him with us. I suppose it depends on the dynamics between the potential teams that are championship contenders that would want him and their trust in his body and his health versus how badly he prefers to win another championship versus actually being like a mentor and being on a team that loves the hell out of him and fans that love the hell out of him and value him and that have stuck with him throughout his whole thing when a lot of teams have probably given up on him by now. It's really going to depend on that. But he's a humble enough guy. I would not be remotely surprised and he also actually, I think he always wanted to be a teacher too. So I think that this is actually, now that I think about it, this is fucking perfect for him. The perfect situation for him to resign with. So I really think he probably would do it. And especially for continuity's sake, I already know we're going to be stuck with JG. I'd be shocked if Tom Dundon forces Joe Cronin to take the best deal he can get for JG. It'd be great to be able to finally get rid of him. But I mean, ultimately, like, again, I don't think anybody's going to be willing to take his damn contract on. He hasn't remained healthy. Also, like, he's just been a pain in the ass for what was that, 100 and I think it was 160 million over 4 years or 5 years. I think it was 165 years. Fuck you, Dame, for that, for forcing that to happen. But yeah, that you literally walked out on us, like fucking goddamn. Anyway, and yet people are still mad at LaMarcus. What? It was the opposite with LaMarcus. It was not the same. Like literally, it was the opposite with LaMarcus of what people think it was. Because what they think LaMarcus did to the Blazers, in reality, is what Dame did to the Blazers with forcing JG to be signed to a long-term contract because that's his buddy, that's his friend, you know. And he's saying, "Oh, I'll consider staying if you re-sign my buddy." And so they do that, and they give him this big hyperinflated contract that literally nobody else was willing to offer him. The max I think he was offered was 4 years, 140, and they gave him, I think it was 4 years or 5 years, 160, and it's just like, fuck. And then he walks because of course he did. Like, this dude fucked us over, and yet nobody got mad at him, but they're still mad at fucking LaMarcus. I will never grasp that. Like, that never made sense that anybody should ever be mad at LaMarcus or think that he backstabbed us. He did not. He got backstabbed by the Blazers. That's what happened. So I've never blamed him. I've actually always been 100% on his, backing him up and on his side for him leaving the Blazers because he should have. That's the right decision. Like, you get fucked over as hard as you did, and all the lies that they told him of, like, you know, oh yes, you're gonna be our cornerstone, you're gonna be our franchise player, you're gonna be the face of the franchise, you're gonna be our, you know, our number one guy, our go-to, and everything, all these other things, never happened. They give it to the fucking rookie. Oh, what? They give it to Dame in his rookie year. You know, you're gonna feel some type of way if you're LaMarcus, especially being with the Blazers as long as he had been. And then also the fans are all obsessed over Dame immediately, and he's taking the back seat again, like he did to Brandon Roy. I cannot blame him for leaving, especially considering that was backstabbing by the Blazers, and then on top of that, they're trying to backstab him again with the fucking contract. Yeah, he should have walked, and he did. And I genuinely am happy that he did, because he did the right thing. Like, you know, whereas Dame actually fucked us over by lying, saying I might actually stay if you re-sign JG, because in reality, he just wanted to get JG paid, which everyone actually kind of knew ahead of time, because there was actually enough insider information that it's like, yeah, no, he's literally told JG, like, I'm going to get you re-signed, and I'm going to, before I go. And so everyone knew he was already gone. And he still walks after he's resigned. Like, he literally lied. He literally backstabbed the team. He fucked us over contractually, you know, cap-wise, just to fucking go to Milwaukee, you know? And then realize, yeah, I kind of fucked that up, didn't I? Yeah, you fucking did. Like, what kind of egotism does that fucking require? And yet nobody's mad at him. Everyone's still mad at LaMarcus. I cannot grasp that. It will never make sense. But again, I digress. Anyway, that's my thoughts on that, and apparently also what the fuckery that has to transpire and is going to transpire this offseason for the Blazers. I think there's a chance we could decline next season because of this, but that's a different story for a different day, like I said. So anyway, that's that. That's all for me. There's another stream of consciousness review of the entire series for the postseason, and especially a bulk of this was really in the series, postseason series, or the round one series was actually about obviously game 5, but you know. So Sidy Cissoko, baby, we need to resign him. We need to fucking resign him. I want to make sure that Sidy Cissoko is still on this fucking team next year, but it's a guaranteed contract, and hopefully it's like a 3 or 4 year contract. Like 28 million would be 30 million would be amazing to get him for. I would fucking love to keep him on this team. We need him. If you pick between him and Chris, and you pick Chris Murray, I'm going to fucking riot. I am going to burn down fucking the Rose Garden. I'm going to burn down fucking Blazers headquarters, because this is fucking poor shit. You're picking CD, or you are 100% committed to imploding this fucking franchise. But I digress.